Hey traders, welcome back to another profit and loss recap video. Today is Monday, December 11th. I just finished up trading for the morning and I locked in $396 in profits with a relatively new trading strategy that I've been testing. And in this video, we're going to break down this trade, talk a little bit about this new strategy, and I'm going to explain the process behind creating and testing new trading strategies so that hopefully you can start following those steps and create profitable trading strategies of your own. So with this strategy, what I'm looking for is an opportunity to short sell a stock after an extreme move, once it's become very overbought and the stock is then due for a pullback or for a reversal to the downside. And the stock that I traded today for this strategy was JTAI. Now I want to emphasize that this is not a stock that I just randomly selected out of the top percent gainers. This was found on one of the scanners that I've been using for this strategy specifically, and I'm going to pull that scanner up right now. So since the market is open today, we've had a few stocks that have been hitting this scanner, LPTV and then JTAI. JTAI started hitting the scanner at $2.21 all the way up to a high of $2.40. Okay, so if we zoom in here to the market hours and just draw some lines to give us a range to show exactly where the stock was hitting the scanner, it was going to be there from 220 up to 240 within this time frame here. So the idea is to take advantage of this big move that happened to the upside prior to that area, and then we're going to short sell into this area, looking to capitalize on a pullback or a reversal to the downside. And that's exactly what I was able to do thanks to this scanner. But the first step before any of that, behind creating a profitable trading strategy, is not going to just be to randomly come up with an idea and then start to set up a scanner for that idea. Before that, you're going to want to have some kind of data from the market to actually back up that type of setup. So the data that you track is going to be different depending on the setup that you're looking for or the type of trade that it may be. But as an example here, I want to show you some data that I was collecting over the span of a couple of months earlier on in this year. And this is for stocks that were gapping up in pre-market, but more importantly, this is for stocks that were near their pre-market highs when the market was opening after they had a big gap up. So for these stocks, what I was doing was tracking the symbol, I was tracking the percent that the stock was gapping up, the time of the day that the pre-market high was hit, whether or not the intraday high was above the pre-market high. If it was, what was the percent above the pre-market high? I was also tracking the high versus the opening price. I was tracking the time of day that the intraday high was hit, whether or not the stock closed underneath the open for that day. If it did, what percentage below the open did it close? What was the pre-market volume like, and was there a short sale restriction? So I don't have a ton of data for this setup specifically. In my opinion, you want to have at least 50 data points to give yourself a good average. But the reason that I'm using this data for this example is because there are a few very clear trends that happen with this type of setup. First and foremost, what I did here is in this column, if the stock ended up breaking above the pre-market high during the market hours, I would put a 1. And if it failed to do that, in other words, the intraday high of day was lower than the pre-market high, I would put a 0. So that way, once I select all of these, I can get down here an average of 0.9523, which means that 95.23% of the time, this setup is going to break above the pre-market high. Now, obviously, that should be a little bit expected because the whole idea behind this setup is that these are stocks that are gapping up near their pre-market highs into the market open, but still having that statistic of 95.23% is going to kind of just validate your thought process behind this setup. Now, to take it a step further, if we get the average here of the following column, we can see that the average intraday high above the pre-market high is 25.20%. So that means that with this setup, 95% of the time it's going to break above the pre-market highs, and the average move above the pre-market highs is going to be about 25%. On the other side of the spectrum, if we select this column over here, we can see that a staggering 90.47% of the time, these stocks are actually going to close at a lower price than they opened for the day. So just because they're gapping up and just because they're tending to break above their pre-market highs, does not necessarily mean that they're going to hold up near those highs the entire day. And in fact, over 90% of the time, they tend to close at a lower price than they opened for the day. Okay, so you can see how having this type of data for any specific type of setup is going to give you an edge in the market. And that is the first step in creating a profitable trading strategy, in my opinion. Track data and find where there is an edge in the market. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and plug in some information into a scanner or a screener to help yourself find the stocks that are meeting your specific criteria for your strategy. And that's exactly what I've went ahead and done with JTAI. Again, we're looking for these extended plays that have had a nice spike up in the recent candles. Our scanner is then going to alert us for this strategy, and then we can look to short sell into that area. That's exactly what I did. I was short selling at an average cost of about $2.26. And although the stock has since gone higher, we did get a nice pullback from that area that I was able to capitalize on and lock in some solid profits. So I was short selling again at $2.26, covered in the low twos. And the important thing to keep in mind here is that even if the stock does end up rebounding like it did in this case, if I didn't already lock in profits, I would be able to stop out then at break even on this trade once the stock started to recover back to my entry price. That's a really important piece of information for this strategy specifically, because now once you move your stop loss to break even, there's only a few scenarios that can happen with that trade. The stock can either reverse back up to your stop loss price and you can stop out at break even, meaning that you've lost nothing and you've gained nothing for the trade. Or you can take a small profit like I did in this case, or the stock can continue to fade and move in your favor and you can end up with a big profit. So worst case scenario is break even, best case scenario is a big profit, and kind of the average is going to be a small profit. So that's the idea behind the strategy that I've been testing out over the past few weeks. When I say testing, I simply mean that I've been trading this with smaller than usual position sizes. So if my average position size on any other given trade is, maybe $10,000 to $15,000, with this strategy, I'm looking to just put in a couple $1,000s at a time, just until I've been able to track it for long enough to kind of determine whether or not it's going to be a viable trading strategy. And so far, it's been working out really nicely. Another one that's been hitting the scanner today was MINM. MINM was hitting the scanner over $4 per share. So that's the area that I would be looking to short sell into this stock up into these highs. And so far, we've had a really solid pullback to the downside from there. So this also would have been a very profitable trade had I taken a short position in this stock for this strategy. I also want to mention that this is the same way that I used to track the opening range breakout strategy. This is not a strategy that I came up with on my own necessarily, but it is a strategy that I practiced and tested for a long time in my own personal trading before I started to scale up and before I turned this strategy into one that I use on pretty much a daily basis. Today we had a really solid opening range breakout with IONM. IONM had an opening range breakout level of about 55 cents this morning. So if we draw that here on the chart, we can see that pretty much immediately it starts to push above that opening range breakout level. Gets a nice consolidation period here for about 5 minutes before ripping up to new highs, getting halted for volatility, and then ramping up even higher to a high of 96 cents. So it ran almost 100% from that opening range breakout level within the span of just about 15 or 20 minutes. And while I was personally a little bit preoccupied with my other trade, we did have some traders in the Market Master group that locked in some profits on this trade. We had K-Man, who was able to lock in a portion of his profits before that volatility halt, and then the rest of his profits once trading resumed. He was able to meet his daily goal and make $135 in profits on that trade. And we also had Frisky, who ended up with a small green day because of IONM and JTAI. All of that from simply looking at the opening range breakout levels for these stocks and then buying into that momentum once the stock begins to break out over those levels. So again, these are not random levels. These are carefully selected prices based on data and based on my own personal trading, which has been almost 10 years now at this point. All right, so anyway, that was my one trade for today, locking in $396 in profits. Hopefully you found some value in this video and you learned a thing or two about how to create a profitable trading strategy. And if you did, please make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to hear about these stocks that I'm trading in real time, and you want to work with our team of traders, get access to our day trade and swing trade alerts, our detailed trade plans, our live custom scanner streams, and so on and so forth, all of that can be found in the Market Master group. There's going to be a link down below in the description for you to get signed up. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.